Hello, 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 and welcome back to LA River Trivia with me, Marissa Bates. I am the CFO, COO at Friends of the LA River. And tonight we have a special edition of LA River Trivia. It is Nature After Dark, and all of the questions will focus on nocturnal animals, specifically bats and frogs. And if you remember back to last year, we had a very successful series of events called Bats and Brews. We look forward to doing that again in the future. But for right now, I have brought in the host of Bats and Brews, very well received, and also happens to be our Director of Policy, Liliana Griego. Hi, Liliana.
Hey, Marissa.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining trivia today.
Of course, I'm excited.
So I think what we're going to do is go through a few questions about bats, and then I'd love to chat with you about bats on the LA River.
Yeah, we can get batty.
That sounds great. So I will see you here in just a couple minutes when I get through some of these questions.
Sounds good. Good luck, everyone.
See you soon. All right, folks, tonight we're going to do it a little bit differently, and I have prepared visual, awesome, cool pictures and stuff to go along with these questions. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on the screen, and I can't wait to hear what you think. So without further ado, let's go to the first question. And we've got round one, bats. Question one, bats make up what percent of all animals on Earth? Is it A, 5%, B, 10%, C, 25%, or D, 50%? If you said C, 25%, you are right. Isn't that wild? Bats make up a quarter of all mammals on Earth. Rodents make up 50%, which is another topic for another day. But 25% is everything else. That includes you, me, our dogs, our cats, our horses, all the other things, 25%. So pretty amazing, and many, many species of bats out there. So we have lots to talk about. All right, let's go to question number 2. Why do bats sleep hanging upside down? A, to help them breathe while asleep. B, to better hear an approaching predator. C, to fit more bats in the roost. Or D, to be able to quickly launch from the roost. If you said D, to be able to quickly launch from the roost, that is right. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about this with Liliana, but they like to use gravity to help them come out of the roost and launch out very, very quickly so they can get started with their hunting or escape a predator or what have you. So it helps them leave and fly away nice and fast. All right, let's go to question 3. The Mexican free-tailed bat is the fastest mammal on Earth. How fast can they fly? A, 100 miles per hour, B, 50 miles per hour, C, 150 miles per hour, or D, 75 miles per hour. If you answered A, 100 miles per hour, can you believe it? They fly so dang fast. I think it's technically the fastest has been clocked at 99 miles per hour, but we're just going to round that up and give it to them at 100. And the Mexican free-tailed bat can live up to 18 years, which is pretty impressive. If they were still alive today, they'd be able to vote in Tuesday's election. Hope you've got your voting plan. Hope you're ready to go. Hope you got your ballot in. All right, let's go to question 4. This is the flying fox, the largest bat, and it lives in the South Pacific. How big can its wingspan grow to? He said D, 6 feet. Yikes again. Can you believe that? That's like a very tall human, and lay them on the side, and that's how big this bat's wingspan is. So you don't want to, you probably don't want to mess too much with that bat, but they're very friendly, so I've heard, and they are vegetarian, so don't you worry. Happens to be the smallest bat is the bumblebee bat, and that bat only weighs 1.5 grams. So there's really a crazy range in the size of bats and the different habitats they're able to exist in as a result. All right, final question of the round. How many mosquitoes can a bat eat in 1 hour? A, 200, B, 1,200, C, 800, or D, 600? $1,200 mosquitoes in an hour. I mean, can you even believe it? It's a wild amount of mosquitoes. And I mean, at least for me, I'm grateful that there are bats to eat all those mosquitoes, because come that time of year and you've got mosquitoes coming around and you've got all the bug bites and you're all itchy and then having an allergic reaction. And, you know, we like that the bats eat all the mosquitoes. It's great. It also saves us a bunch of money. In Southern California alone, the agriculture industry saves about $24 million on pest control because of these bats. And they can consume up to their weight in insects in a single day, which is just bonkers. I mean, imagine if you ate your weight in like ants or something absurd. That doesn't seem very efficient, but it also might be delicious if you like ants. I don't know. I don't presume to know what you like. All right. That is the end of round 1. Thanks for playing, team. I'm going to bring Liliana back. And how you doing? What did you think about those questions, Liliana?
They are unbelievable. All those facts about bats are always so crazy. Like, I hear them over and over again. I'm like, God, they're so incredible, these species.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a favorite bat fact?
Probably my favorite bat fact is that these are nocturnal pollinators, and they actually pollinate the agave plant, which is the plant that we get tequila from. So we can always thank our bat friends for all those fun tequila nights we've had.
And margaritas.
And margaritas, yeah.
I mean, where would we be without a margarita?
I'm not sure.
Well, I'd love to hear that. Liliana, I wanted to ask you, so we find bats on the LA River, right?
Yeah, we actually find a few.
Why do we find them there?
Yeah, so, I mean, bats are probably one of the most understudied species on the planet because they're so elusive, because they're nocturnal. But we're really lucky here in LA because we have a couple of bat species that are found here specifically because of the LA River. So the LA River is a big body of water, so it provides water for the bats. The water also and the vegetation attracts insects, which then can provide food for the bats. Like you were saying, they can eat a ton of mosquitoes. So if you've ever been down to the river, you know there are quite a bit of mosquitoes down there. So we can thank our bat friends for going in and eating them all up. And then there's also habitat adjacent to the river, like Griffith Park, for example, that serves as habitat for the bats. So, you know, when they wake up and they want to have some food or some water, then they can go from Griffith Park, go down to the LA River and get their food and water.
And I heard last year at Bats and Brews that oftentimes they'll sleep underneath the bridges so that when they first wake up in the morning, they grab a gulp of water on their way out.
Yep. Yeah. So even the infrastructure that we have along the river and some of these human structures, man-made structures that we have can also serve as habitat for the bats as well.
So I know we're getting into the time of year where a lot of bats have migrated or they are hibernating. What time of year would we normally want to go down to the river and try to hunt for or look for bats?
Yeah, so normally we find the bats in the summertime when the temperatures are nice and warm. And that's usually when they're most active. So, you know, again, I said they're really understudied. So we don't know if the bats here are migrating or if they're hibernating. Okay. It's still a little unsure right now of what they're doing. which is why it's so important that we continue doing community science around them. We continue doing research around them so that we can learn more, also to help protect them, because there are a few things that they're under threat. So, for example, there's the white nose syndrome, which is a fungus that is found on the bat's nose or on their wings. And the fungus itself isn't deadly, but the fact that it causes irritation specifically while they're hibernating can be a huge impact on them. So, when they're hibernating and they're trying to sleep, then they wake up because there's this irritating thing on their nose, and they try to take the thing off their nose, and that occurs over and over again. So when they're done hibernating, they've drained all of their energy. And now when they need to go up and get some food and start breeding, they don't have enough energy to do those things, which then they start declining in their population. So lots of things that can potentially threaten these species, and a species that we don't even know that much about, which is why it's so important to continue studying them and learning about them so that we can help them, so that in turn they can help us.
And of course, part and parcel with looking for other opportunities to expand habitat on the LA River so that they have lots of places to spread their wings and fly.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Liliana. I learned so much about bats. Again, I'm always surprised every time I chat with you. I learn something new.
Yeah, they're the best.
I'll bring you back in about 3 to 4 minutes to talk about frogs once we get through the frog section.
Sounds good.
See you
soon.
All right, folks. You know what that means. It means we're going to round 2, frogs. I mean, get excited. Frogs are also very cool, also nocturnal when they're most active, and excited to share some really cool trivia about frogs. So let's get started. Question 1, which frog toad species is non-native? Is it A, the Baja California tree frog, B, the American bullfrog, C, the red-legged frog, or D, the western toad? It is indeed the American bullfrog. These frogs are not from this area, and they were intentionally introduced as a food source and to help control insects. We also think that they may have been kind of escaped pets and really kind of come into our ecosystem unintentionally, but they are very much here, and you will see them on the river if you are out on a frog search. So let's go to question number 2. Why is Baja California tree frog a misnomer? And a misnomer means, why is that name not quite right? What's wrong about that name? Is it A, it does not live in trees, B, it is not found in Baja California, C, it is not a frog, or D, it is not an actual species, it is the nickname for the Baja California yellow-spotted tree frog? That's right. It doesn't live in a tree. It's actually a ground dweller. So it does sometimes climb into trees, but most of the time it is not in a tree. So it's a bit of a misnomer to call it a tree frog. However, it is the most abundant frog in California. So if you do decide to go out into the river and look for frogs, you will probably see this particular species. Question 3. What do you call a group of frogs? I personally love knowing the strange names that we call groups of animals. Is it A, an army of frogs, B, a parliament of frogs, C, a flamboyance of frogs, or D, a cauldron of frogs? It's A, an army of frogs. A cauldron is actually what you can call a group of bats, which is very spooky for this Halloween themed evening. A parliament is what you'd call a group of salamanders, and a flamboyance is what you'd call a group of flamingos. Like I said, I really like knowing the weird names that you call groups of animals. So there you go. Use that for the rest of your life. Now you know. All right, question 4. Frogs were the first land animals to develop what? A, complex eyes, B, night vision, C, lung sacs, or D, vocal cords? That's right, folks. Croaking, or vocal cords, they were the first ones to develop those on land. Very cool and very impressive. Male frogs actually have a vocal sac that they use and kind of will collect the air there and then push out the air from that sac through their vocal cords, which is what causes that croaking and the noise that they'll make, particularly when they are in mating season and trying to attract a lady frog to come over to their frog crib. Okay. They can be heard from up to a mile away, which is also kind of crazy and pretty cool. Question 5, last question of the round, last question of trivia for tonight. What is the largest native frog in the Western United States? Is it A, the Baja California tree frog, B, the American bullfrog, C, red-legged frog, or D, the Western toad? That's right, frogs. That's right, frogs. That's right, folks. It is C, the red-legged frog. They can be up to 5.75 inches long, and they are a threatened species. So we really want to take care of these really cool, kind of big frogs so that we have them for years and years to come. And with that, I think it's time to bring back our friend, Liliana Griego. Hello, Liliana.
What's up, Marissa?
So what kind of cool frog stuff do you have to tell us about?
Yeah. So people are always surprised that frogs are found along the LA River. They don't think that frogs are still there. And, you know, before we came in and concretized the river, there were a ton of frogs there. So many that even a neighborhood adjacent to the river got the nickname Frogtown. That's how many frogs were there. And a lot of the frogs that were there were the red-legged frogs that you were talking about that are now a federally threatened species because we've destroyed so much of their habitat or have altered it so much that they can no longer live there. So frogs are really fragile species. Even their skin is permeable. So if there's any chemicals or, you know, pollutants or hormones in the water, it can penetrate through their skin and really affect them. So they're really sensitive species. We've also destroyed most of their habitat, riparian habitat, where they go to breed. So, you know, they're really threatened. But on the plus side, you know, the river still does have some frogs. And you can really hear them and see them in the summertime. So if you go down on a warm summer night, you can just hear the beautiful chorus of the frogs. And it's really magical to really hear them. And one of my favorite frogs that you can find along the LA River is the Baja California tree frog. And they have such a loud sound, but when you finally find it, when you start looking through all the vegetation, you see this little teeny tiny frog and you're so surprised. You're like, what? That's the frog that's making all that noise? So they're really impressive with small size, but big sound.
I mean, isn't that always the case? Great things in small packages. That's
right.
That is very, very cool. I can't wait to talk to you more about this, particularly as we get close to the summer and we're going to be able to go see them in the river. So thanks so much, Liliana. I really appreciate your sharing your bat and frog facts with us. You are a real nature hero, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks for having me, Marissa. See you later.
Well, thanks everyone for joining trivia. And if you liked this video and you want us to do more, please like, follow, and subscribe us on YouTube and Facebook. That will help us not only build up our followership, but do more videos and make sure that a lot of people see them. And so thanks again for your time and love seeing you here and can't wait to see you again soon. Have a good night.